Welcome, welcome. This is our Tuesday satsang. Let me
Renewal.
take a few moments with all of you. Many familiar faces and a few new ones, so I want to welcome you all.
Hey, Savitri and Satamanu.
Yes.
Morning or your evening.
Yes, your evening. Okay, namaste. Welcome all of you.
Oh, God.
So I'm in a strange state today. I'm usually very stable. So I don't know what this is, but there was this vast peacefulness, but very awake, that came to me around 5 in the morning. And for the next 2 hours or so, I was connecting to my entire childhood. And as it was happening, I was aware that this wasn't memory. This was my psychic being, the part of me that's traveled all the lifetimes. Giving me gestalts, total knowings of different parts of my childhood and early life, where the entire atmosphere and the conditions and all the different factors in the psychic body were there, so that I was in essence experiencing what it was like internally and externally for myself and for each of the other people that I was interacting with. And I was experiencing linkages and connections and seeings. And the thing that was so interesting is the quality of life back in the 50s. I mean, it was like utterly different than the quality of life I've certainly grown used to. It was a complete different paradigm. And when I came back and I was sitting in that, I said, holy shit, have we gone south? It was really a clear, and then we were raised in the Bay Area, so it wasn't an undeveloped area of the world, and wasn't particularly happy. It wasn't about happy or sad or any of this. It was recognizing that back then the darkness was everywhere, but it wasn't political. It was in the Democrats, it was in the Republicans, it was a pervasive fabric, which you couldn't see distinctions like we see now. I also recognize how my parents, who had both been children in the Depression and had gone through World War II, and had come out, and the survival, the need to work so hard to create a safe and material base of their life. I mean, my father had 3 jobs. My mother worked continuously. They were both very, very committed to the family and to their Catholic belief. And it was the vigor that they gave to create a life together for their children, which is a tradition that I don't hear much about anymore. That's just really not there. It was like they gave their whole life over. And my mother was so frugal and so capable of doing so much with so little. And my father worked so hard in all the different ways he could, planning for the future for all of us. It was like wow, what a lot of work. And they weren't looking for payoff. They were just doing the Dharma. They were just living their life. And of course, I have them to thank for that kind of context that I was raised in, because it was so committed and so stable, relatively speaking. But I do know that this takes us to this principle that I want to explore today with all of you, which is we're calling renewal, right? That means make new again, right? Renewal. I want to know who this re is that makes it new. But there's many other variations of this renewal, like restore or redeem. Like who's deem and who's re? What what is this in the English language? This play. You find resolve. It's like solving again. I mean, it's like this. What is doing that? And of course, that's what we're doing. We're renewing. We're taking the old and making it new. And of course, this really starts when we awaken. Because then whoever this re is what we awaken to. This thing that can see the old. In order to recognize that it needs to be made new again. It needs to be alive again. It needs to be real. It needs to be restored, redeemed. So I'm creating this pretty much out of a few notes. So we'll see where this unfolds. But now I got started. It ain't going to stop.
Remember, it's an hour for today.
With that?
It's an hour today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I won't go too long.
Don't go too far over.
Less than 2 hours.
Yes.
All right. So I think the thing that I want to be clear about is there is a part of us as a human being that's seeking to restore us to a better way of being, to bring into, we're assuming that the new has been lost and we're stuck in the old in this paradigm. So when a human being is trying to make the old newer, better, fit in your idea of yourself, what it is you're looking for, what your Dharma is, the questions you ask about yourself coming into life, like who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of all this? And then how do I live? How do I live? Those are the inquiries that we as individuals are looking to come into life and create a basis for different than the unexamined assumptions of our childhood and our early adolescence. And we look, of course, outward for the guidelines of how to do that. We make measures of what the new looks like for you compared to what you've known from the old. So there is a process here of renewing or making ourselves, creating a person. We're making ourselves different than what we did before. Now, some of us don't know how to do that. Certainly, some of us have struggled prior to our awakening to try to find a way to do that. But when we awaken, an extraordinary possibility happens because we wake up to the new. We wake up to this possibility of being that the new represents. See, the new is the immediacy. The new is the now. The new is the reality of thisness. So if you look at renewal, it is an endless creating and bringing forth yourself into existence, into this now. So that's not even a possibility that to recognize. It is what we're trying to do, even as human beings, as we struggle to come into life and individuate, become people, persons, men, women, whatever, meeting the expectations of our parents or the pressures and the circumstances of our upbringing, or being overtaken by the challenges of the circumstances and the people we were born in with. We're looking to come into existence newly. You could say that's the urge to be, right? That's the urge to come into existence. And those moments of now, of new, are those precious moments where we get in touch with something that inspires us or lifts us or makes us more alive or immediate. Maybe it's a walk in the woods. Maybe it's standing on the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean during a storm. Maybe it's being in awe of the magnificence of the vast sky. Those are moments of now, moments of new. That's always been there because life is always new, you see? The only thing that prevents us is the part that needs renewed. Made new again. All right, so in this paradigm, I recognize that we can do this in our awareness. We can do this in our heart, in our feeling nature, our emotional body. We can have moments of immediacy, of now, of pleasure, of delight, of excitement. We can have moments of now which are painful and difficult and a shock to the habit of the life we've been living, the old patterns that we've grown habituated to. Finding them and losing them, or finding how much they've been shaping what's possible for you. Because when we forget how to renew ourselves, we start dying. When we forget that we have a choice to recreate our lives, we start disempowering ourselves. And this is how we go down the tunnel of our past. And this is how we keep believing the past in this present moment as a projection, or as a filter we look through, or as the pattern of reactivity or judgment. Or we project into the future out of fear or anxiety or self-doubt, or anger or resentment. We are victims of the old in those moments. We're being run by the machinery of the old. So it's only when we mature enough, and that process of maturing is painful. It's pretty much getting tangled up in the shit enough to recognize how really miserable you are and how awful it is not to be new, but to be stuck in the old. And that's the despair, the dejection, the paralyzing incapacity, the overwhelm, the shame, and the diminishment. So we lose our way. We lose actually what the true Dharma is to live in a renewed and renewing condition of consciousness in whatever it is that we've organized how to live around our purpose. So there's this inner time between our renewal and the alignment of ourselves with our purpose, both as individuals and as a human individuals and as awakened beings. Because awakening can actually make your predicament worse. You could say that all the great anguish that human beings experience is because some part of them woke up to how hopeless, how trapped, how incapable we are. So that's the beginning of what renewal looks like. You've got to first find out what it is that needs to be made new again. So that's actually the precursor to that which allows renewal, the renewal, whatever that is. And the Gita says what that is. Whenever the light of natural law fades away and darkness overtakes us, during those periods, here Krishna is saying, I come into existence. I create myself. It's not that we create ourselves, but that principle that can create comes into existence for us. That responsibility, that revolution, that renewal, that redemption comes into existence. We get found, we get discovered. We discover a quality that before we didn't know we had, lost as it was in the old. And when it comes into existence, it does two things. It protects the best part of ourselves. And it starts dismantling the error, the ignorance, the old, the delusion, the veils, the unconscious programming that has allowed us to be overtaken and to be simply a vessel or channel or instrument for our programming, for our ancestral lineage, for our sexuality, for our religious beliefs. We become the victims of all that and lose our authority to be able to renew ourselves. And that has a purpose, to reestablish our purpose, our Dharma. It's our redemption. It's to be found. And in that moment, we renew, restore. We come back to why we live, why we are alive. It's just a continuation of what we do in a human struggle, but the advantage of awakening is something greater than what we were demonstrates itself, becomes available to us. We can experience the quality of consciousness, this new quality of Krishna, new quality of awareness, a new quality of experience that we didn't have access to. I mean, that was clearly my experience. When I was sick and overtaken by years of violent drug use and darkness, I didn't know how bad it was until I read a book by Mara Baba one night called God Speaks, and it renewed, restored, reestablished something that was there innately. And then again, with my awakening, when I was 50, when the universe came, it was like, holy fuck, shit, I had no idea. It was a moment of renewal, of redemption, of recognition, of recovery. And what that brought, what happened with that, was the beginning of a force, a spiritual force that in my body was tangible, unmistakable. I couldn't, my skeptical mind, my cynical, agnostic adaptions could not deny the reality of what my whole system was experiencing. I knew it was real. As another RE, real, the real of the all. It was coming into the recognition that there was another reality. So now I want to talk about the renewal that goes on with transformation. I'll just share a little something about that. What I teach and what I work with is personal transformation. Now, what is this transformation? Well, it only happens when there's spiritual force, spiritual power. This spiritual power enters into the human system to empower it to be a mediator between the creation and itself. This spiritual power is unmistakable. It's concrete. It's substantial. The more awakened you become, the more clear you are of how it's working on you, how it's affecting your mind, how it's affecting how you think, how it's affecting what you've made important, how it's affecting your emotional body, how it's bringing you into the darknesses that you never even knew were there before, in your vital nature, in your desire nature, in your anguish and in your pain and your jealousy and your resentment and diminishment and shame. It just wakens it up. And when it wakens up and it starts dissipating, something else is there. It's the same vital, it's the same mind, but the mind is empty and the vital is open. The heart expands. There are sensations and events that happen in your belly. And then it goes into the body itself, and you start to have twitches and energies and events occurring this way and that way. You begin to feel this force coming down and crushing you as your body still doesn't know how to receive it. Or this awakening coming up from the very core of your torso, waking up and trying to come up in you. These are not abstractions. These are actually more real than physical energy. Which of course, we think these things in the world, these things of matter are solid, but they're not even, we know it's all energy, tangled up, aggregated. No, it's all energy. Yeah, but you can't feel or see or experience the energy locked into a table or a jar or a stone. But it's there. You just have to awaken it, right? Bring it, restore it to its original, renew to its original condition, and you'll see it too is a force. It is a force that transmutes what was the old into something new. Look at fire. Takes a piece of wood, dumb wood, dead wood, and it converts it into heat and light and ash. It renews the wood and makes it a higher vibration, a higher element, a higher possibility than it knew it existed. And it's no longer bound by the old form. It starts diffusing into the world in new ways, into the creation in new ways, as its compounds all dissolve into the air, into the soil. So we become means, we become channels. So I teach that this is what happens. To understand the stages of the journey, of what it means to wake up to what you are and to see it as different than the who, your personality, your conditioning, your compensating patterns, the ancestral karma you took on, and all the other crap. And then this work frees you up for moving into a greater relationship with the divine presence that governs all of us, of which we are all individual expressions. So it's the training. It's the teachings lead to the trainings. The trainings lead to a process. The process leads to a life lived aligned with what's being renewed. This is what spirituality was always meant to be. It wasn't just meant to be one shining light on a pedestal that everybody went hoo-ah to. It was meant to be lived. And it's now we're living it. Now the time, unfortunately, the end of the world. Now the time we're learning finally how to catch on to why we're here, why we exist in a way that was not possible before. Talking into a listening of the old that doesn't have any capacity to get it, not on its own. So the only way this can become real is if we make it real. We need to make our body the receptors, the channel, the vessel, so spiritual power can inhabit that quantum of matter that is our personal responsibility, the ability to respond. This is our charge, our territory. But there's more than just knowing this personally. Although personal transformation is still the primary focus of my work, The purpose of that transformation is manifestation. As we enter this time of peril for the planet and for our very survival as a species, it has become clear that this was what I was being prepared for all along. For the coming to a place of consciousness where I could respond to the peril effectively, to renew the world order, to restore the world order, to help recover the Dharma that has been lost, to create a new Dharma, to renew Dharma, to be aligned with its purpose in existence, in balance with the forces that are here, so that that can happen. What the planet is going through is comparable to a dejection, the darkness that intensifies before the light in the spiritual transformational process can set in motion. And in that devastation lies the potential for what we have yet to know. Manifesting this potential to renew this Dharma is my work. So I want to talk about, just to point to, many of you know this. Many of you can feel the transmission. Many of you are actually in the midst of one part or another, the darkness to the light of the renewal process. And there is a way by which we can collaborate consciously, by using our intelligence, by using a capacity I would like to call today the psychic being, the part of our beingness that is organized around our ego. And this psychic being, by the way, as I was saying earlier, is the one that was remembering, reliving the childhood. It is that part of us that keeps the impressions in a fullness way beyond the mind's memory, because it's stored in a different kind of body than the physical body, in the psychic body. And therefore it carries a richness and interconnectedness, a knowingness. And it's this part of us that can know without knowing how, either through intuition or a sense of connection, how to collaborate with the renewal process. It is the part of you that has lived many lives. It's the stream of your consciousness through all the lives you live that bring you to this point. It keeps the record in a kind of a innate wisdom, knowingness, intuition that lets us know we're off track or on track. It is the source of us that gets embodied, that lives beyond the body, that travels between lives. And it's this principle that can take the spiritual power that comes from the Sat and open itself to it, and that can receive the rising power that comes out of the Asat through matter as the Kundalini, as the transformative principle that starts awakening the body to its true nature, that sets in motion a catalytic event that goes and starts a process of transformation. And these two principles come together in the vessel of our bodies. And it is the psychic being that can collaborate between that force above and that power below, and learn to allow for the individuality of yourself, of your body, to let go, to surrender, to recognize the purpose of the transformation process, to have that quality of faith. It restores your faith in life because it goes beyond the little individual ego and its separateness and its concerns and its fears and its projections and its acting out and all the rest of it. It is the part of us that's already wise, already knows. It's the part of us that feels old even when we're young. And it's the part of us that feels young even when we're old. It is this eternal quality of us that is embodied and associated with our person, with our individuality. And that's the miracle that I found out on my own journey, haphazard as it may have been, was that I am still here, even when there's nothing here. I am, even when there's no existence. It is that quality of me that does not die. It's never old. It's always new. It is the part of us that teaches our ego how to live in the immediacy of the new, in that restored quality of purity and openness and willingness that we brought with us as babies and every biological creature carries in its initial stages of pure innocence, pure willingness, pure openness. Except that we're not determined just by the hardwiring of our instincts and our biology and our animal programming. We have this greater capacity. It's been built over lifetimes. You now have a body now that could awaken. 4 lifetimes ago, you didn't have a body that could awaken. It takes time to deserve a body that is more capable. The fact that you're awakened means that you have lived lifetimes aligned with this purpose, wittingly or not, and it has given you a body that can be more open. As a matter of fact, many, many people on this planet have lived before and are also awakening, but there's no container, there's no holding, there's no tradition, there's no guru or teacher or guide that lets people know what it means, how to collaborate, how to recognize that a renewal process is going on. And that's why this work needs all of you. All of you. To not only do this, to come to this capacity of endless renewal, but also to be able to demonstrate it for others, to be able to recognize their purpose in life so that they're not defeated by the dark night of the soul. They're not overtaken by the despair of the recognition of how you're trapped in the old. We become agents of renewal. And this is our Dharma. I don't care what else you think or whatever hesitation your mind or your vital or your stubborn, resistant, opinionated, prideful nature may come up with. This is your purpose. There is no other mission. There is no other work. To always renew, to bring alive the immediacy of what's here now, what's real, what's regal, what's glorious, what's magnificent, what's boundless in its gifts and powers and joys and delights and loves, so far beyond what our little conditioned self could have imagined before. It is this psychic being in us that collaborates with the process. It's not our ego. It may feel like our ego because there's actually hardly any difference. The only difference is when we're our ego, it's the psychic being, but being through the veil of our mind or through the veil of our vital nature or through the veil of our physicality and our embodiment and the content that is. It is the psychic being that gives us the sense of us, of me. It is you. It is the self, and it is between this collaboration. But the psychic being is organized around the ego. It can't go beyond the organization of the ego until the ego expands to include the rest of creation. And the psychic being is the part of us that already knows we're connected to everything all the time. It already knows that everything impacts everything else. It already knows it matters, but without questioning what that might mean or not mean. So when our psychic being is what gives us the faith to step out of the bound of the old and to venture into the vulnerability and the uncertainty and the complexity of the new. To hold the paradox of the unfolding of that which is not yet known, to come out of the field of your previous knowing into another way of not only knowing, but experiencing. It's a revolution, not just a renew. In the old term of the revolution is taking down the old king and installing a new king or a new order. A new king gets installed, and that's your psychic being. And that's the part of you that can choose to collaborate with sometimes a very painful, uncomfortable, difficult process that doesn't seem to stop. It's the part of you that can persist, that can hang in there, that can trust itself to trust someone else, to support you in going beyond yourself. It's that part of you which is eternal also. So when the journey is complete, when the revolution is over, you are then that kind of being from which this entire creation emerged from, that supreme being. And you say, oh, yeah, of course, that's what I've been all along. I just forgot. That's always what I was, a divine being in a human body. And all this wisdom I knew already. And everything I lived, but I was so stupid I didn't catch on. I couldn't see it. I was the last person to catch on. That was my experience when it came. Duh. About time you caught on. Every part of our life, everything we've ever lived, this life and all past lives, and everything that we may still live, are all part of the enriching of the unfolding of this renewal. It is a recovering of our ability to be in relationship with the fullness of both our own personal story and the story of all of us together, all of mankind. That every piece has its relevancy. Every piece is part of this restoration. And when you come into these higher states of being, you can feel those parts being refreshed. You can feel them letting go, healing, resolving, and the clarification of the necessity of each stage of our life, each piece of suffering and darkness, each lasting, persistent error that we were unwittingly perpetuating. There's no one else but each of us. There's no other reality in your me and my me. And when we join together, wow, that's a revolution. That's a new revolving, a freshing of the possibility of existence. Okay, there you have it. Yeah, may you never recover. All right, so now I want to open this up to anyone who would like to speak into this. About 20 minutes, so we'll have a fair number of people able to come forward and see what we get.
Kathy has the microphone.
All right.
So if you'd like to come forward, just raise your hand.
Your Zoom hand.
Your Zoom hand, that's it. So, Shrima. So first up is Shrima.
All right.
Hey,
Hey,
hey, Shema. Good to see you.
great to see you.
Thank you.
Your house is still there.
It's there. It didn't burn down. Luckily. I know the fire got really bad, but we're safe.
Good.
Oh my gosh, my heart is pounding. Like, I didn't really have anything to say. I just miss you all. I haven't seen you for so long, and everything you said just brought pure joy to me. It's exactly what I've known all my life and wanted. And oh my God, I can't believe how my heart is racing. So I just wanted to connect.
It's so good to see you. Yeah. Yeah. And notice the power you use to stop the fire from burning down your house.
Yes.
We gave her a little tool here. It's funny. Well, it was a coincidence, right? It was a coincidence, you know. Backfire happened. They started a backfire, and that stopped the fire from going down. So, you know, it was a coincidence. That's how we diminish the power of the spiritual force. We can't help it.
It was a powerful mantra, I think. I would go out in the front of our house and just do this, hiding behind a tree so no one could see me. And just do the mantra, sing the mantra. And
Yeah.
I had faith in you, and it worked. So thank you.
Yeah, we have faith in other principles. But the bottom line is that if your house had burned down, that would be another renewal.
Yeah. You know, it's really
So maybe we got
interesting.
in the way. I mean, that's the problem with using those mantras. Sometimes they get in the way of the renewal the universe wants to bring.
I figured if it was going to burn down, it was meant to be. But, you know, wow, as crazy it would have been, I really saw that, you know, as much as I love my house and everything in it, and, you know, all the sentimental things from the kids growing up and everything, I wasn't feeling attached or anxious or, you know, anything about losing anything. Like, in fact, it's almost like you said, it was almost like, oh, what a cool start. Like, I would have nothing and I can just be free and start fresh. So I was surprised.
You're a revolutionary, my dear.
Yeah.
The world hasn't caught on to it
She
yet,
is.
but you are. You're a dangerous revolution. All right, so good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shrima.
Next up is Gemma.
Emma.
Emma,
Emma. Hi.
namaste. Good to see you.
Happy to see you. And I also just wanted to connect because my heart is bouncing. And so many words that you were speaking, and it went just through my body. And as you said, fire and ashes, it's just, I even have tears coming up right now, and I'm not crying, but
This is exactly how we become what we are. This is now a demonstration of where the psychic being is in full collaboration and the body is open, has been transformed enough, either with me or previously, that has now allowing you to experience the fullness of truth. And the experience you're in is so precious. It is so real. It is so new. This moment of new doesn't mean tomorrow will be this form of new. It'll be its own new, but it's this new.
yeah.
And there is the celebration. That's all there is. It's only this new, this now that the new happens. So thank you for coming forward and demonstrating that perfectly.
All right, next up is Joan.
Joan. Up.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, very well.
Oh, good. All I can say is I can't say enough thank yous to both of you because I was so happy to be able to be in the completion. I was in the talks only
Yeah.
on over the weekend, and that was really great. I feel like I've been in dejection. I mean, so many of the people that spoke in the completion, I felt the same way. And since doing the world peace meditation, feel like I'm coming out of myself in ways I never thought was possible. And today I woke up, I was a mess over the weekend, over the Sunday and Monday, and felt this deep, just all over my body. But today I woke up in this blank space, sort of a renewal, is exactly what you're talking about. And it's very different. I can hardly describe it, but it feels so different to me. It's
Yeah.
an open, I feel like an open container, an
Yes.
open vessel.
That's your psychic being. That's you without content, you without ego, you without story, you without investment, desire, want, fear, control, all of those things. So in this moment, you're rejuvenated. Yeah, Joan, I want to tell you, you look younger than I've ever seen you. It's clear to me you've been rejuvenated. There's a re again, right? Wherever that re, we got to find what that re is. Juvenated, though. I mean, that's like the jewel of a living. So rejuvenated. And that's enough. You know, there's nothing more than that. It's actually quite simple when you get used to it. But until you get used to it, it's an endless wonder. It's not you doing anything anymore. It's just things happening. It's just living. It's just existing, but aligned with your purpose. And that is what we can keep perfecting. It's one of the reasons we do the global groups. We do the global training program to empower you to bring this capacity you're discovering to create new, to renew into your lives and for others. So, you know, this is the coronavirus. This is why we have Trump. This is why there's this contraction in the entire field of collective consciousness. Even though there are vast areas of renewal going on in other areas, there is still this dangerous, disastrous momentum that is coming. But it also is part of the renewal. So we all have a role to play in that. And that recovery, that restoration of our Dharma is really the endless job we have between now and the day we leave our body. So keep expanding, Joan. Keep
I
going.
am.
Very
Namaste.
good. Beautiful to see.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Okay, next up is Savitri and Manu.
Satyamanu.
Hey, hey.
It's so good to see you. It's like rich. It's like I get a rich fullness of the two of you.
Yeah.
together. Like royalty. Very nice.
How is everyone?
Intense. We're all very intense with everyone.
Being stretched, being
Very,
stretched, being stretched, being
very
stretched.
stretched.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
why you look so good.
That is why.
You're constantly being renewed, right?
Yeah.
So is the yoga school opening up again July 1st?
July
No, July 1st.
Yeah.
Right. I had heard that. Okay.
All right,
So
go-
then you're going to have a new stretch.
Yes,
Yes.
we know, and it's it's been a continuous renewal. And I was raising my hand because I was so thankful that you were bringing this topic up, because this is exactly what is going on. It's like the world is a reflection of what is going on in my body. I'm continuously renewing every cell, and there is this fire burning constantly. And the interesting thing is, I feel so empowered by it. There's as if it's been burned away, and there's nothing to go back to, but only to being empowered to start manifesting what is here now and what is asked of all of us. And I just feel that this is exactly why we are here right now in this period. This is why we're here. This is why I came here. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fire itself transmutes into the purpose. It will stop burning, and it becomes a power. It becomes a power that brings with it responsibility, the owning of the role of that purpose in your inhabited body. And that power means the Supreme Being as making room for itself in your system. And of course, there's still chunks and pieces that we keep encountering in that process. And we do this because we're empowering the world mother. And she's kicking ass. So she needs all the juice we can send her. So the whole world is going to learn to tremble in awe and wonder at the power of the world mother that's coming. It will not, mankind is not going to slip out of this one. Time's running out. There's no place left to hide. All the darkness is coming forward to be burned, to be seen, to be experienced, to feel and the consequences of it. And we carry that. We hold that huge paradox as the maw of the mouth of the Supreme, like in the 11th chapter, consumes all of these things. Nothing survives. It's always new. In the new, the old is dead. There's only new. It is always this mall of consumption of that which is old. Out of that creates the new. The greater we can handle the darkness, the obscurity, the poison, the more the new comes through us. And it doesn't come through us in ways maybe we do. We only do what's before us. You do what you do in the yoga school. You do what you do in your relationship. You do what you do with your kid. You do what you do in the interactions with other people. That's it. That's all you have to do. Because if you're embodied, it's going out into the world to every person who can receive it to whatever extent they can. Maybe they'll get upset and angry at you. Maybe they'll feel threatened by being around you. Maybe they'll feel enlivened and enriched to be around you. That's not your job to worry about. So just know your royalty. And royalty means that you're at the epitome of the interface between consciousness and matter. And you have a role to play. And the whole thing of this will be eventually burn out any part of your ego that's still trying to take over the psychic being, because the psychic being is the one that survives everything. The ego will not survive. And it's just good to know you're a loser before you start, because you'll never be a winner, because a loser and winner is a different paradigm than what you are. And you just step more and more boldly into whatever is next. I hear that Europe is looking to open, but they're not going to let people from the United States come there. I just think it's so
Shocking.
cool. Sorry, US. You're too contaminated for us. I think there's a lesson of humility that's coming to this hubris that's currently still embedded in the United States of America. So I'm sure it is beings like you in Europe that are doing the work, it's making sure those who are in this collective consciousness have an opportunity to wake up to that which needs to be renewed. Yeah. All right. So good to see you both. Thank you for showing up.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Next up is Karen.
No,
Karen.
Karen.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. I didn't think that I would be called because I'm down on the list. Anyway.
Yeah. No, this may be the last one. Yes, you're the last one. You made it.
Well, it's just I wanted to say thank you like everybody else. And every time I connect with you, I connect with this force that it just rises up in me, and it always brings tears to my eyes. And it's so cool.
There's the new. There it is. There's the new. Thankfulness is evidence of the new. Thank God this new. It's this thankfulness is an automatic, natural expression of what you've always had. It's just it had got so squashed. It's taken a long time for it to kind of reanimate and recover itself in you. So.
But what you said today is helping me to understand more about the karmas and the structures and the just living life from day to day, feeling that force come through, but realizing that there's our environment. We need our environment to understand this force. We need our being we need our physical embodiment to understand and feel and know this force. We can't know it otherwise.
Yep.
And
There, without the field, there is no knower and nothing to be known. So the body is it. That's it. We
I'm
have to
understanding
be.
that more and more as I read astrology charts. It's just like, wow, this is how you're learning and how you're growing and what your lessons in life are going to be. It's an expression of the universe through this particular embodiment.
Exactly. There is an intelligent structure that exists in the entire interrelated fabric of creation, in which astrology, mathematics, musics are reflection. Yeah. That is holding as a scaffolding the unfolding of what we're talking about here. That this entire creation has been created for us to renew ourselves. Because this is the only way the creation can manifest its purpose, which is to embody the Supreme Being so it can know itself in its own existence.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. And I thank you for articulating that and helping me to understand what, like you said, we've always known this, but I haven't had the right instruction or structure to understand it with.
Very good. Just keep remembering to trust the psychic body and not so much the mental body. Now, let the mental body be an expression of the psychic body rather than let the intellect mental body overtake the psychic body.
Right.
That's the thing that here, as we come into creation, we create structures of our own based on other people's expectations and the structures, and they start defining what's possible for us to know. Yeah. So be able to be willing to step beyond astrology. I remember I did my father's astrology chart. I was reading the astrology chart and he was very attentive. And I said, well, what do you think, Dad? And he said, I don't know, but whatever's coming through is great. So it is this other thing that we are that's really making the difference. Mm-hmm. So just remember that, Karen.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. Namaste.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Satsang.
Great to see you.
It is.
All right, so here we are. We're going to wrap up. We're going to take just 5 minutes and just sit together. Become aware of your breath. Become aware of your body. And now feel into the insides of your body. Feel the energy, any disturbance, any movement, the thankfulness as a body to experience, the excitement, expanded sense of possibility. Feel that in your body as we sit here for these few minutes. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri. All glory to Supreme. May truth manifest. Namaste. And thank you for joining us today.